The lights inside the historic downtown theater dimmed as hundreds of people settled into their seats. The evening had been organized to celebrate ordinary heroes, people whose quiet sacrifices had changed lives without ever making the headlines. Cameras slowly swept across the audience, capturing smiling families, veterans, teachers, nurses, and volunteers who had dedicated their lives to serving others. Among the guests sat Keanu Reeves, dressed in a simple dark suit, almost unnoticed despite his worldwide fame. He hadn't come to promote a film or make a speech. He had quietly accepted an invitation after learning that the event honored individuals who believed kindness mattered more than recognition. As the master of ceremonies introduced the next performer, the audience applauded politely. "Ladies and gentlemen," the announcer said, "please welcome Daniel Carter." An older man walked onto the stage carrying a weathered acoustic guitar. His gray hair reflected the soft lights overhead. And although his steps were slower than they once had been, there was quiet confidence in every movement. Keanu froze. His expression changed instantly. He leaned forward, staring at the performer as though time itself had stopped. It couldn't be, yet every detail matched the memory. Years earlier, before international fame surrounded every step he took, Daniel had worked as one of Keanu's personal security guards during a difficult period in his career. Unlike many people around Hollywood, Daniel never treated him like a celebrity. Instead, he treated him like a human being. When photographers crowded too closely, Daniel calmly cleared a path. When exhausting schedules left everyone frustrated, Daniel somehow found a reason to smile. And when tragedy touched Keanu's life, Daniel never offered empty advice. Sometimes he simply stood nearby in silence, a presence that spoke louder than words. Eventually, their careers went in different directions. Life moved forward. Contact faded until tonight. Daniel adjusted the microphone. Before softly strumming the first chord, his voice wasn't polished like a recording artist's. It carried something more valuable. Experience. Hope. Heart. Thakat. Audience grew unusually quiet. Each lyric spoke about finding light after loss, about believing that small acts of kindness never disappear, even when forgotten by those who receive them. As the song continued, Keanu noticed something else. Daniel's hands trembled slightly. Age had slowed him. Years had left their mark, yet his determination remained untouched. Around the theater, several audience members wiped tears from their eyes. No one knew the history connecting the famous actor and the humble musician. No one except Keanu. Memories flooded back. Late-night conversations after film sets, shared coffee during long security shifts, quiet encouragement offered when success felt strangely lonely. Daniel had protected more than Keanu's safety. He had protected his peace of mind. As the final note echoed through the theater, the audience erupted into thunderous applause. Everyone stood, everyone except Keanu. He remained seated for one extra moment, overcome by emotion. Then, without saying a word, he slowly rose to his feet. What happened next would become the moment no one inside that theater would ever forget. The applause continued long after Daniel Carter lowered his guitar. He smiled politely, nodded to the audience, and prepared to leave the stage, believing his performance had come to an end. Then something unexpected happened. Keanu Reeves stepped out of the front row. At first, the audience assumed he had simply been invited to present an award. Whispers spread through the theater as cameras quickly turned toward him. But Keanu ignored the attention. His eyes never left Daniel. When Daniel recognized the familiar face walking toward him, he stood frozen. "Keanu?" he whispered. Keanu climbed the stage, smiled warmly, and wrapped his former bodyguard in a heartfelt embrace. For several seconds, neither man spoke. The audience watched in complete silence as years of memories seemed to disappear in a single hug. "You always made sure I got home safely," Keanu finally said into the microphone. Tonight, I wanted to make sure the world remembers the man who spent years protecting others without ever asking for recognition. Daniel lowered his head. Overwhelmed with emotion, I was only doing my job, he replied quietly. Keanu shook his head. No, you were doing much more than that. He turned toward the audience. There were days when I was exhausted, discouraged, and uncertain about life. Daniel never tried to impress anyone. He simply showed up with honesty, patience, and kindness. Sometimes the people standing behind us become the reason we can keep moving forward. The theater erupted into applause once again. The host stepped aside, allowing the unexpected reunion to unfold naturally. Keanu asked for a chair, and the two men sat together at the center of the stage as if old friends catching up after many years. Daniel shared that after retiring from private security, he had begun volunteering at a neighborhood community center. He spent his mornings teaching free guitar lessons to children whose families couldn't afford music classes. They remind me that hope doesn't cost anything, Daniel said with a smile. Many parents in the audience wiped tears from their eyes. Keanu listened carefully before speaking again. You spent years protecting my career. Now you're helping children build their dreams. That's the kind of success people don't always see. The audience responded with another standing ovation. Daniel admitted that life after retirement had not been easy. Medical expenses had increased, and although he never complained, there were moments when he wondered whether anyone remembered the years he had dedicated to protecting others. I never expected anything in return, he said. Knowing I helped people was enough, Keanu gently placed a hand on his shoulder. I remembered. The simple words carried more weight than any long speech. The room grew silent again. Several former coworkers, who had also attended the event, stood and applauded Daniel from the audience. One by one, others joined them until the entire theater was once again on its feet. It was no longer about a famous actor. It was about gratitude. It was about honoring someone whose quiet acts of service had changed lives without seeking applause. The cheers slowly settled. The host smiled and announced that the evening still held one final surprise, a tribute prepared especially for Daniel. No one, including Daniel himself, had any idea what was about to happen next. The lights in the theater softened as a large screen slowly descended behind the stage. Daniel Carter looked at the audience with quiet confusion, while Keanu Reeves remained beside him with a gentle smile. This, the host announced, is our way of saying thank you to someone who spent a lifetime protecting others without ever asking to be seen. The screen came to life. One by one, short video messages began to play. The first came from a paramedic who recalled how Daniel had once stayed with an injured stranger after a traffic accident until emergency crews arrived. Never forgot your kindness, the man said. You reminded me that courage is often quiet. The next message featured a young woman. When I was 12, she shared, Mr. Carter bought me my first guitar after learning my family couldn't afford one. Today, I teach music to children because of that single act of generosity. Another, former coworker, smiled through tears. Daniel always believed that the strongest people are the ones who make everyone around them feel safe. The audience watched in complete silence. Each story revealed another chapter of Daniel's life, acts of compassion he had never spoken about, moments of generosity that had quietly transformed the lives of others. By the end of the tribute, there wasn't a dry eye in the theater. Daniel removed his glasses and gently wiped away tears. I never imagined anyone remembered those moments, he said softly. Keanu stepped forward and addressed the audience. We often celebrate people for what they achieve. Tonight, we're celebrating someone for who he chose to be. Fame fades, awards gather dust, but kindness has a way of living on in people we may never even meet, the audience answered. With a long standing ovation, then, the event organizer revealed the evening's final surprise. In recognition of Daniel's lifelong service to others, a community music scholarship had been established in his name. The scholarship would provide free instruments and music lessons to young people who lacked the financial means to pursue their passion. When Daniel heard the announcement, he covered his face with both hands. "I don't know what to say," he whispered. Keanu smiled warmly. "You've already spent your life saying everything that mattered through your actions." The two embraced once more as the crowd applauded, louder than ever. As the evening came to a close, many audience members formed a line, not to ask Keanu for photographs or autographs, but to shake Daniel's hand and thank him for inspiring them. Outside the theater, reporters naturally gathered around Keanu, expecting questions about upcoming movies and future projects. Instead, he simply said, "If you write about tonight, don't make it about me. Tell people about Daniel." The world needs more stories about ordinary people who choose kindness every single day. The next morning, the photographs from the event spread across social media. Millions were touched, not because of celebrity glamour, but because they were reminded that genuine gratitude never goes out of style. Parents shared the story with their children. Teachers discussed it in classrooms. Community groups organized volunteer projects inspired by Daniel's example. The message reached far beyond the walls of one theater. It reminded people that true greatness isn't measured by wealth, fame, or applause. It is measured by the lives we quietly lift, the encouragement we freely give, and the compassion we show when no one is watching. And somewhere in a neighborhood community center, Daniel returned to doing what he loved most, teaching children to play guitar. Only now, every note carried an even deeper meaning. Because the greatest legacy a person can leave behind is not being remembered for success, but for kindness that continues to inspire others long after the moment has passed. The end.